Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. It is Monday. Nate and I are coming to you with a 10-game slate in the NBA following that Super Bowl. Happy NFL betting to everybody. Hope you had a successful season and a successful Sunday betting that the Super Bowl there. But we move on to this slate here with best bets, and we also have play of props up in a separate video for you guys. So go ahead and like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us all season for the rest of the way here in the NBA. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use the prop finder tool that we have for all these NBA games to make sure that you're getting the best odds available to you from all of the books offering us bets this NBA season. Nate, for those who have not been following along closely with the NBA Coast to Coast, another 66-2 night there on Friday as the kids stayed pretty hot. We were well above 500, probably around 700 on the betting last week and the couple weeks prior. So let's stay hot with your first best bet tonight.
Yeah, been a good February. So I'm looking at Hawks -4 as they host Chicago here. But if the Hawks' terrible record against the spread makes you nervous, I will throw out the Hawks money line with Cavs money line parlay, even money. If you want to take the spread there, you can get some plus money here. But I mean, I trust the Hawks to win this game. Like, first of all, the most glaring thing that came out when I was researching is the Bulls have won 6 straight road games as favorites, lost 6 straight as dogs. Now, the Hawks, I mean, in their last 8, the Hawks have not been the team that you cannot back to cover a spread no matter what. I mean, they're actually 6-1 against the spread in their last 7. They're actually playing extremely well. Their only 2 losses were comebacks by the Clippers and an incredible output by Dallas. So they've given up nearly 150 and 40 plus in those 2 fourth quarters. And while they give up the most points per game in this last 8, like they're outscoring you. And frankly, I just don't think the Bulls, like at surface level, have any chance of scoring the way the Hawks do or the way those other 2 teams that beat them do. Especially they're a little banged up here. Kobe White, ankle soreness, has struggled his last 2. They only got 15 points in the fourth quarter at Orlando on Saturday. A little bit of a rest disadvantage as they come to Atlanta here. Their defense has not been up to snuff lately. Alex Caruso is questionable as well. Like, that would be a huge loss against Trae Young if you don't have Caruso. But even with him in there in their last 8, they're allowing the second most threes, 8th most assists. They're scoring a high percentage of points off turnovers, forcing the second most there. Atlanta has the 4th lowest turnover rate in their last 8, 8th lowest on the season. And so, I mean, yeah, I like the Hawks to win this game one way or another. Won 5 of 7 since Trae came back. Like I mentioned, let's look at the Cavs. I mean, 17 of their last 18. What do you want to say? Including their last 3 at home. Now they're back home, where they're 15-4 as home favorites. Philly, obviously, no Embiid, still, trying to find their stride. I somehow think they're going to cover 10 points. Yeah. Like a random Oubre game and Maxey being able to find some cracks in a really good Cleveland defense. But I think the Cavs win, and that's the best money line partner.
Yeah, I mean, everything that I read says the Cavs should win this game by 1 million. There's not much in the recent numbers that would indicate that the Cavs wouldn't do that. So yeah, if you want to throw them in a money line with the Hawks, that's fine entirely. Like, zero problem with that. That might be one of the easier games of the night in terms of the money line. You're going to need Maxey to just do crazy heroic things once again, and score at least 40 probably. I mean, I don't see a way that this team wins without him scoring at least 35, and the Cavs would have to probably play bad on offense. So in summation, the margin is very small for the Philadelphia 76ers to be able to win that game. For the Hawks, yeah, I mean, the thing is, if Caruso doesn't play, I think it's one of those, what do you call them, locks, if they exist. It's definitely a much more surefire bet without Caruso to slow down Trae. Trae's prop, if you're looking at it, is at 23.5 because Alex Caruso is the best point guard stopper in the league. So proceed with caution if you want to take it over on Trae if Caruso is in. I kind of like assists for Trae if Caruso is in the game. When he forces the ball out of Trae's hands, Chicago gives up a ton of assists to point guards, the fewest amount of points per game to point guards. That is a direct result of Alex Caruso. But if he is not in, this would even better game. Even if he is in, I would agree that there's not weapons on the side of Chicago right now to be able to hang with the way that Atlanta is playing offense. So I'm going to go to an under in what I think is the game of the night, but I don't know with the way that the Milwaukee Bucks are playing against these Nuggets here. They're at home, and I'm going under 232.5, and that might be down to 232 or 231.5. I don't know if there's any 232s with the hook hanging anywhere, but Like, I gotta just, at the very least, I gotta bring this bet up and talk about it because it's kind of crazy how bad the Nuggets have been on offense lately on the road, and how good the Bucks have been at home on defense, or not bad, I guess, depending on how you look at who they're playing in terms of their opponents for the Bucks at home. But right now, offensive rating for the Nuggets in their last 5 road games, which dates back to like the 15th of January, about a month ago, 29th. That is second worst offensive rating for this team for teams playing on the road in their last 5. The D rating is at 16th, bit better. The effective field goal percentage is at 25th in the league right now. It's just wild to see them not really be able to have quite as seamless of an offense that has actually relied on Joker to just kind of get his a bit more than the dimes that they not normally can depend on. Their opponent effective field goal percentage is 12th. So like they're still playing slightly above average defense on the road, and their pace is 27th. In that time frame, right? Now you go over to the Bucks and you look at their offense in the last 5. We're talking about 15th in offensive rating as opposed to the 3rd or 4th that they normally would be and have been at home all season. 5th in defensive rating. And I was just going back through it going like, why? And it's simply just because it's not just that other teams have missed a few shots here and there, to be honest. I mean, their opponent 3-point percentage not great, but also like a bit more down low presence, a bit more defending the rim, a bit more getting back on defense. I suppose that's going to come maybe with a bit more of Doc Rivers being, really emphasizing that kind of stuff as a defensive minded coach. It would add up that would be a big catalyst for the change because the time frame matches up with when Doc Rivers is in there on the sideline versus, beforehand. So that adds up. The opponent field goal percentage for this Bucks team is 4th best. The effective field goal percentage for their opponents, they're limiting them very nicely. The effective field goal percentage for the Bucks on offense has been slightly lower than top of the league. They're 16th in that at home over the course of this time frame, and their pace has slowed down to about 13th, 14th as well when they're playing at home. So slow paces versus two teams playing way better on defense than they are on offense. 230. When I saw 230, I really thought it might open a lot closer to like 227 and a half, 228 and a half. Knowing that the Bucks are playing this way, but I do think there's an element to it that the books know. The public looks at Milwaukee, they're like, oh, they're going to score and speed things up, and they look at Denver and they go, well, this is a great offensive team, so let's go ahead and take them. And I think you need to do a little bit more betting model research to kind of see the recent numbers to really understand what I'm talking about here.
The Bucks with Patrick Beverley are allowing 84 points per game.
There it is.
84, and that is clearly sustainable. No, but in seriousness, like he is going to change the culture a little bit, a little more accountability, also just a lot more defense at the point of attack. Like normally you'd look at Jamal Murray and just be like, he's gonna absolutely cook Dame and whoever else, Malik Beasley, they're gonna throw at him. That was part of the biggest reason the Bucks were struggling so bad defensively. And yeah, you add the coaching change like you mentioned, and a little bit of personnel to help with that. I mean, these teams just totaled 220 in Denver, and then the road splits are so stark with the Nuggets. So yeah, I like the look here, pretty sharp. Hopefully, I look sharp on this one. Knicks at Rockets over 222, and the Knicks are down to a bare bones lineup here, 8-man rotation, and missing the key defenders. I think OG and Hartenstein. And recently, they've not been that kind of Knicks defense that we know Tibbs would love to play. They have a 125 defensive rating in their last 4, allowing the 3rd highest field goal percentage, 2nd highest 3-point percentage. Even in a larger sample size when they had some of those guys, they're 4th worst 3-point D in their last 9. Now you add to this rotation Bogdanovich and Burks, guys who are more offense than defense. Obviously, you look at their defensive ratings with Detroit, and it's awful, but in their Knicks debut, not able to do that much on the defensive end, but Burks, easy 20, as they call him, 22 and 22. Love to see it. 4-year over. Also love to see Jalen Brunson back in there, dropping 40 like nothing. And don't forget, Dante had, 36 in the one game Brunson missed. Dante playing out of his mind, shooting 40% from 3 in his last 12 with 22 points. So I think the Knicks can score on this Houston team, which, they're missing guys too. And at first glance, you're like, Fred VanVleet's out. Maybe Şengün's out, but The thing is, without Fred VanVleet, they're just the Rockets of last year or the year before, right? It's the Jalen Green Rockets. It's Jalen Green, 30% usage. Let's go up and down. We can't defend the paint. We don't slow it down. We don't value possessions in the 4th quarter. They have a 123.5 defensive rating is what it shakes down to in 5 games without Fred. That's 11 points worse than when they have him. They score a little bit more to keep up, but they have not had much success winning games. But their last 6 at home, with Fred in and out a little bit, scoring 122, pace is way up, 4-2 to the over, and that's despite bad 3-point shooting. That's despite not getting a ton of free throws. Uh, so I mean, I am a little concerned if Shangun's out, but at the same time, like that means what Jeff Green's starting at the 4 and like Jabari at the 5. Like I just think their defense is not going to be good enough to limit the Knicks, and their offense will find a way against a Knicks team that's just gassed and just playing more offense than defense right now out of necessity.
Yeah, the only thing I would so first of all, if Şengün doesn't play, I'm just a complete stay away outside of the Knicks winning this game by a lot. I do think with Jalen Brunson in and Şengün out, this is not a close game. I also Isaiah Hartenstein might play, which doesn't really hurt. Like he's been great on defense. Don't get me wrong; he's been way above what the expectation was for how Isaiah Hartenstein would defend the rim, and the rebounds will be there. I don't think he impacts the game more towards a defensive-minded way of playing. I just think that like him being in there is just another reason that I like the Knicks as my favorite bet in this game. If you have no Şengün, dude, we're talking about the offense being run by Amin Thompson and Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green. And I like Amin Thompson the best out of the three names I just said to not be a dunderhead when he's playing point guard for this team. So Ime is going to probably, I guess he doesn't have any hair to pull out, but he would have been pulling his hair out in this game if Şengün doesn't play, because that's a frustrating backcourt that you have to watch try to facilitate half court offense. No, that won't be the case. So if Şengün doesn't play, I would stay. My personal bet is definitely just sticking to the Knicks, so I don't have to worry about the Rockets coming along for the ride at all. But let me close this one out with another under for that Golden State Warriors. Well, yeah, I'm going to take the Warriors money line. I do like an under in that game. Let me be very clear. That has gotten bet down a few points, and I sound like a madman saying take an under while Utah is at home with the Golden State Warriors in town, who are great at shooting threes and can dime up, and Utah gives up assists and all that. But like Utah also doesn't give up anything down low, and the Dubs have actually been a better defensive team and down low team. So you can get their money line still at -110. That's what I hit because it's basically a pick 'em or a -1 for them, and like a -110 odds at Caesar for them to just win the game straight up is great. An under 242.5. I think this probably stays around that number. I don't think it's going to drop too far because the public will keep keeping that number up by betting on the over if it goes down at all, knowing that Utah does what it does at home. But there's been some things that have definitely slowed things down for the Dubs lately on the road, and one of those things has been the arrival of guys like Guy Santos. He's been playing more minutes. So has Lester Quinones, and man, are those guys not great on offense. But golly, do they try hard on defense? And defense in the NBA is 95% effort. So you get two young guys in there that slow the pace down. Don't really fit into the offense. I'll be honest. Like Quinones, if he's not shooting well, is just not really helpful to you. And the same concept for Guy Santos. If he's not necessarily getting offensive rebounds and getting those hustle points, not much he's bringing to you either. So those two guys have come in and averaged like about 15 to 22 minutes over the course of the last 7 games, and that is a huge reason for why over the course of that time period, the Dubs have been just a completely different team, as we've seen. For them, they're 4-1 in their last 5 road games. They have the 6th best offensive rating, but they have the 3rd best defensive rating as well. And they are playing at a pace that has about the 7th fastest. So it's not like it's like a guarantee, but the defense has been the key thing for them that I look at and go, all right, they are limiting second chance points. They are not relying quite as much on offensive rebounding as they were at one point to get their shots, because the true shooting percentage and the effective field goal percentage has gone back up for this team. On the road, they are now 9th in effective field goal percentage over their last 5 road games. On the season, they were up around 22nd for most of that. So that is a big turnaround for them as well in terms of the everything just sort of working better on defense. The I guess inclusion of Kuminga in there at least means that you don't have long spurts where your starting lineup does not have a one-on-one defender that can handle any kind of isolation ball. And the Jazz have a number of guys that definitely want to take you out and put you in ISO, like a Jordan Clarkson, even a Colin Sexton. And they want to find guys like Lauri Markkanen in a place where you get the defense imbalanced and are able to swing it over there. But the Dubs are limiting assists. And like I said, they're limiting that opponent effective field goal second best in the league in a way that is like, okay, they're getting out on the threes, obviously, because they're limiting the effective field goal percentage, and they're definitely a bit better down low. I mean, there would be the opportunity here for Walker Kessler and some bigger guys to get some points. But my main thing, too, here with the Jazz, just looking at them, while they haven't been the best, I mean, they still have the 2nd best offensive rating at home over their last 5 in their own building. Back at 9th in pace, but they also rely on free throws, for a number 1 free throw attempt rate in that time. And the Dubs went from 27th, and for most of the season, they were dead last in opponent free throw attempt rate. Over the last 15 games, it got a little better. Over the last 5 games, even better. 12th best opponent free throw attempt rate, which Still not anything to like go ahead and write home about, but it's top 15, it's top 15 in the league as opposed to bottom 5 in the league, which is what they were for most of the time. So they're obviously improving at defending without fouling. And lastly, you got Walker Kessler in there. You don't have any more Kelly Olynyk minutes. He's back in Canada in his home place. And now you've got Walker Kessler getting on the floor a lot more here. And Walker Kessler on the floor versus Kelly Olynyk on the floor. We're talking about a slower pace. We're talking about fewer offensive rebounds for your opponent and second chance points for your opponent. Obviously, defending the paint, the rim field goal percentage is going to continue to go up for them with him in there for more minutes. So more Walker Kessler, less Kelly O, all that stuff. I'm liking an under 242.5, but I also really like the Dubs to be able to keep the streak going.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing to think about here is the rest advantage. I mean, rest for everybody has been kind of crazy. Like a lot of teams have not played since Thursday for the Super Bowl. Dubs did pull out a win over Phoenix on Saturday, but I think even with a little bit of extra rest, that their defense should be even better. Like you're saying, if you can get the Jazz into a game that isn't like a 130 game, I think the Warriors have the advantage there. If they can slow it down, value possessions, and not just get into these kind of crazy shootouts. So I do see the correlation here. But yeah, if you're going to take the under, just wait and wait for this to get up to like 246, right? Because people are only going to be betting the over, I think, unless they really dive deep into these stats and try to get ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And it started at about 242, 243.5, and it got bet down like a few points, like a point or two. I happen to know a couple of the people who probably bet that down after talking to them last night a little bit on text. And they were still a little bit hesitant too, in terms of like, okay, well, I do think this is the case, but it's just objectively terrifying to take it under for Utah at home. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Continue to follow along and subscribe to that page if you would. Like the video as well. Super helpful so we can keep bringing you these free picks and predictions each and every day. Also, I got player props up, so check that one out. And until we see you next, happy betting.